Då hälsar vi alla välkomna till första presentationen här på Erik Penser Banks temadag för förvärvsdrivna bolag. Och idag så står jag här tillsammans med Gilsdorf som är Head of Acquisitions på Stiptech. Välkommen!
Thank you very much, Hjalmar.
Och med det sagt så lämnar jag över ordet.
Okay, thanks. Today I'll take a presentation in English here that we have prepared for you guys. My name is Gilsdorf. As Hjalmar said, I head up the acquisitions team for Stiptech. Been there since 2018. Today I'm going to give a brief intro to Stiptech in general. I'm also going to walk through how we work with identifying and acquiring high quality companies. Okay, let's get started. Stiptech main mission is to create efficient, sustainable and safe societies. We, to the 12 months ending December 31st, 2021, have a revenue of approximately 2.7 billion. We have an EBITDA margin of 18.7%. In the year of 2021, we also had an EBITDA growth of 47%. And since the period from 2016 to the end of 2021, we've had a CAGR of 36%. We had the pleasure of welcoming 2 new countries to the region in acquisitions in Netherlands and Italy, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. We see those as very attractive markets for us going forward. Our goal is to achieve sustainable long-term value growth by consistently increasing profits each year. We do this by acquiring niche, high margin and sustainable businesses, which we continue to work with after we've acquired them in order to produce attractive growth. We focus on infrastructure because it has a couple of underlying drivers, namely the need for more sustainable, efficient and safe societies. It's prevalent in most societies throughout the world, and underdimensioned and aging infrastructures. The combination of these 2 elements give all of our companies a common theme which they grow off of. From an acquisitions perspective, our origination methodology, which we launched in 2014, is in constant development. On a high level, we have 4 processes, which we break down and manage from a completely in-house team. So we don't outsource any of the work that we do. On a simple level, we identify companies that fit within our investment criteria. We reach out to them to try to build relationships. We do some early analysis, continue to build those relationships, and then we work with finding a structure and a proposal that fits all parties in hopes of becoming a new home for a company. On the surface, it seems quite simple, but in reality, it's actually quite difficult. The reason being is we have a mantra that we live by internally, and it's to find the best companies first. There are approximately 25 million companies in Europe, of which 5 million are in our markets of Nordic and the UK. When we add the Netherlands and Italy to that, we have approximately a few million more. Some of those companies have high transparency, many do not. With that said, we've had to, over the years, build a proprietary way to find and vet these companies. And it's through integrating multiple data sources and designing proprietary data and analytics IT systems. We're extremely data-driven in the way we look for companies. Following that, we have collaboration across the organization to leverage the know-how and the industry expertise that we've built up over the years. This enables us to further narrow the funnel in order to get us the companies that we think fit our criteria. When we've done that, we continue the deep dive into the company's commercial and financial stability. We have an internal rating framework that we've honed over the years. And through this process, when we get to the end, we've been able to build up a relationship with a company. We have been able to identify the proper structure that fits us and them, and in hopes of finding a successful acquisition. This is something we do day in, day out, month in, month out, year in, year out. It's the consistency and the continuous improvement culture that we have that enables us to continue to find companies as quickly as possible and bring high quality companies to the group. In 2021, we released new goals for acquisition. We released new goals to acquire for the years going forward. We said we were going to go from 90 million a year to 120 to 150 million per year. And throughout 2021, we prepared ourselves to be able to achieve these goals. We had put the financial capacity in place. We had honed our methodologies for finding and acquiring new businesses. We have the structural capital in place. We did market pilots, for example, on Netherlands and Italy, and we also had scaled up the operational capability so that we can welcome new companies to the group. On the next slide, I'll talk about the new adjacent sectors that we brought in, as well as, after that, the new geographies that we brought in. Our view through sustainability, efficiency, and safety is that there's a more relevant view on infrastructure, which calls for new acquisition sectors. Previously, we had water and energy within our business area, and we realized that there were a lot of adjacent segments that enabled us to look beyond water and energy. And we have changed that business area to resource efficiency, which enables us to look at natural resource efficiency, bioeconomic areas, as well as waste management and recycling segments. Earlier this year, we acquired our first business within the natural resource efficiency and bioeconomy with Agrosistemi in Italy. And we believe these are sub-segments that will provide attractive opportunities for growth in the future. When we look at entering new countries, we have several criteria that we use in order to define the attractiveness of a market. One of them is obviously infrastructure investments in the market. The other is regulations for sustainability, efficiency, and safety. Another is business climate and control culture. And then finally, Stiptech fit with our Stiptech methodology. In 2021, we looked at Northern Italy and the Netherlands as potential markets for us. And having done our research there and some homework, we were able to acquire companies there in the last 6 months. We acquired Certus in the Netherlands in the end of Q4, and we acquired Agrosistemi in Northern Italy in the beginning of this year. We continue to look for new markets in the years to come that fit these criteria for us. So I think from that perspective, we think that we are well prepared for the future growth in the markets that we have. We understand that times are turbulent at the moment, but we're confident about the future ahead of us. So I think we can spend most time with Q&A instead.
All right, thank you very much for an interesting presentation. I was thinking, looking back at 2021, while there were issues relating to supply chains and so forth, you still managed to display an impressive growth. Is this mainly due to the sector that you're targeting, or are there other factors that could explain this strong growth that you displayed during the year?
I would say it's the resilience of the sectors that we target. So the aging infrastructures, the fact that the businesses contribute to sustainable, efficient, safe societies, those are demands that people have regardless of what the economic environment looks like. So absolutely. They're niche businesses, they have high margins. Due to the high margins, they're more resilient to economic downturns.
And are these factors also that you consider when you're considering new markets to enter? You mentioned Italy and the Netherlands. I imagine the exposure to these kind of segments are important when you're evaluating new markets as well.
Yes, but within every market there are pockets of attractive companies that are niche within either energy, water, waste management. So yes, we naturally have to have attractive markets in general, but and a database, a universe of companies that fit within our segments. But you know, I had a question at one point in time whether or not some of these industries they're quite mature. How can you find high margin businesses? Well, they're there. Niche, small product and service oriented businesses can exist in any market, whether it's mature or not.
And you mentioned then that you continuously evaluate new markets. Could you mention any market that are currently under consideration in Europe?
We look at markets that have the same characteristics as the ones that we're in. For example, the Netherlands, the UK, the Nordic region, Italy. We look through data transparency and some of those other criteria. I would say that over the coming years, we will continue to look across Europe. Natural markets there are the DACH region, Spain, for example.
All right, thank you. And also, you elaborated on your process for acquisition. What is the typical time frame for a typical acquisition from the first initiation to this finished acquisition?
It varies tremendously. So some businesses that we held relationships with for years. I would say, for example, Rolec, that we bought early last year. We started building that relationship a couple years in advance, and then stayed in contact with them. And when the time was right, and they felt that it was a good time to make a transition to a new home, we were there to continue the dialogue. In some instances, it takes 2 months. But because we constantly build up a pipeline of active companies in all of our markets, what that enables us to do is cultivate relationships over a long period of time. And those relationships, you know, can bring a deal to fruition quite quickly. Sometimes we call companies and they say, "Oh, it's funny you called. We've just decided to put our business on the market." And other times we speak to people who haven't even thought of making that transition.
All right. And if we look back at the past 2 years, supply chain issues have naturally affected most of these companies. Have these issues driven a consolidation in the different markets? And do you believe that there are more targets for acquisition now than it was maybe back in 2019?
No, I would say the market has heated up over the past few years. There's lots of capital chasing opportunities out there. There was a bit of a pent-up demand through the pandemic, where people's ability to move and do business were quite limited for a time. But throughout history, there are always ebbs and flows and changes in value chains and segments and new businesses. So, you know, when one door closes, another door opens. So it's tough to say that changes in you know, short-term changes in value chains or supply chains or things like that. I don't know if that answers your question, but...
Yeah, no, that's great. And you mentioned that the market for acquisition right now is very hot. Could you elaborate maybe a bit on the multiples now in comparison to maybe 2-3 years ago? Is there a change, or is it roughly the same?
No, there's definitely been a change. I don't think anybody can argue differently. The statistics and the studies show that markets have been at record highs throughout 2021, and it's uncertain how 2022 is gonna shape up. I think the unfortunate incident with Ukraine obviously is another hiccup in the global economy, and could limit people's appetite. I mean, which, you know, to one degree is good for us because we have a list of active companies that we continue to work and relationships that we continue to cultivate. So we push on through any cycle from that perspective. But I think it's quite clear that the multiples have escalated quite quickly. I mean, in essence, it's a simple mathematics issue. If you have lots of liquidity and the banks are providing high leverage to private equity or anybody else, you're able to pay more for a company. Obviously, supply and demand is one of those factors as well that drives up prices.
Yeah. And you mentioned Ukraine. Are there any effects that you could see right now, indirect or direct, or that might come down the line that could affect your business?
We have little to no exposure to Russia, for example, from that perspective, from an ongoing business perspective. We also don't focus on those markets from an acquisitions perspective. I think time will tell what happens with population flows across markets, but the markets that we're in at the moment aren't under any real effect that we see at this point in time.
And looking at 2021, you displayed strong margins, and you were close to achieving your EBITDA target margin. Looking forward, what is the main task to achieve the growth or the target margin? Is it to buy companies then with a higher margin, or is it to work with the OpEx base of the business as it is? Or how do you see, looking forward, where's the greatest potential for strengthening the margins?
I would say both. I mean, because of our business model, the way it's structured, we separate primarily the actual task of acquiring businesses and then managing businesses. So our business area managers do a great job in stewarding our businesses through good times and bad, and they're always driving organic growth. I mean, we've achieved our organic growth targets over the last few years of 5 to 10%. We continue to add in acquisitions of high margin businesses. So you're going to see naturally all elements of our business aiming to improve on that point.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Tack så mycket.